There's ample evidence to suggest that these new mutations may signal the beginning of the end of the pandemic with regards to COVID-19. There's evidence suggests that there's this trade-off between virulence and transmissibility. And as pathogens become more transmissible, that is, they're more infectious, the ability of one person to infect more people increases. That comes at an expense, and that expense is reduced virulence or pathogenicity, that is, the severity of the disease. So in an ideal world, what pathogens or obligate intracellular parasites, that is a virus, what they like to do is strive to find this balance between optimal transmissibility and reduce virulence, because what that means for the pathogen that is trying to amplify its ability to infect more and more people, because again, these pathogens can't live, viruses, particularly SARS-CoV-2, can't live by itself. It needs your glucose, your amino acids, it needs your cells to hijack. So if it can not kill you and infect you and your family members and your friends, that's an ideal environment. It turns out that the location of these ACE2 receptors, which are found in your own tissues, this is how the virus, sort of this lock and key mechanism. I'm making loose analogies here if you're watching on YouTube. So you have the spike protein and you have this, sort of female end on your own receptors called the ACE2 receptor. These mutations really increase this affinity. Now, in fact, let me just read to you some direct quotes from some of the papers that we're going to refer to in the show notes below here. We show that Omicron is about 10 times more infectious as the original virus and about twice as infectious as the Delta variant. Now, some other scientists in the Lancet go on to say the rate of infection from this Omicron variant will be 100-fold higher as compared to Delta. When pathogens become more transmissible, they usually lose some of their virulent or disease-forming capacity. And guess what? These new mutations have caused just that. More and more data is showing that, to the best of my knowledge at the time of recording this video on December 8th, there has been no deaths attributed to this Omicron variant. In fact, it's been a bunch of mild cases. You're going to look at this image right here that shows human cold-causing coronaviruses and seasonal influenza viruses. They're highly transmissible, and they're not as lethal as SARS-CoV-2. Why? Why is that? Because they tend to infect the upper part of the airway, the epithelial tissue in the upper part of the respiratory tract, compared to the lower respiratory tract, which is where more lethal pathogens such as SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2, the Gen 1 version, if we think about the OG version of SARS-CoV-2, it really didn't have a preference as to where it bind. It would cause infections in some people in the lower airways and some people in the upper airways, and that might have been the differentiating factor between severe disease and mild disease. These new mutations foster enhanced receptor binding to the ACE2, which is found primarily in the upper airway epithelial tissue. So essentially, as scary as this new variant sounds, 30 plus mutations, it's heavily mutated. These are the things you're hearing about from pundits on television. Okay, those are good because those mutations are preferentially causing the virus to infect the airway epithelia in the upper airway portion. As you can see here, more benign cold-causing coronaviruses and influenza preferentially affect the upper airway epithelial tissue.